So this is project 4 from the Arduino starter book, where we are going to be making a mixing lamp, which is just an LED with a red, green, and blue light in it. And the concept that this project introduces is pulse width modulation, which is basically what we're going to be using to control our lamp and the brightness of the different colors of the lamp so that we can mix in the colors. And the other thing is that we're going to be using photoresistors as analog inputs to control that pulse width modulation. And so what is pulse width modulation is basically it's a way that we can get essentially an analog output from a digital pin that normally can only output a 0 or 1. And basically how this is done is the digital output pin essentially modulates between 1 and 0, and so we're able to control that modulation and the ratio between the high and low voltages during that modulation. So we could set it so that the pin is basically always low voltage and never modulates to high. Or we could set it so that it is half of the time on and half of the time off. That would be like setting the dimmer halfway between on and off. And by that same kind of concept, we can set it to any range of like ratios between high and low, essentially just like a dimmer. And that's what we're going to be that's the concept that we're going to be applying to this LED lamp, except that instead of a dimmer, we're going to be getting our input from these 3 photoresistors. And so that's just a very basic intro to PWM, but I think that's all that's meant by this project, is just an introduction. It's a very interesting concept, and once I'm done building this circuit, I'm gonna get into writing the code that we will run on the Arduino to allow us to control this color mixing lamp. So getting the code up and running for this project was mostly straightforward. Again, the new concept was using pulse width modulation, which with the crate I was using, we essentially just needed to mark our pin as being a pulse width modulator pin. And then once we do that, we have to enable the pin, and then finally we set the duty cycle on the pin, which is a value from 0 to 255, where if we set it to 255, that basically means like the pin is always outputting high voltage, and 0 would be always low, and right in the middle at like 123 would be half on, half off, so halfway between on and off as a dimmer. And to set the duty, we are going to be using the analog pins that are tied to the photoreceptors, and we have 3 photoreceptors, so 1 for each color LED in our light. And so I hooked all of that up along with a serial output just to debug what colors or what the values I was getting from the photoreceptors. And then I did run into a slight issue where I didn't realize that I had to enable the PWM pins. But once I figured that out, it was pretty straightforward. And so I'll cut now to the finished project. Alright, so I figured out what I was doing wrong. So in order to use these pulse width modulation outputs, you first have to enable the pin. So if I just enable the red pin and then I run this program, the LED should get red, which there we see it's red. And now if I enable all the LEDs, we should have our final color mixing lamp, which I'll run right here. And boom, there it is. So on camera, it kind of just looks like a white light, but in person, it's a little bit more colorful. You can kind of tell that there's some colors coming through. And if I try and cover, let's say, this red LED with my hand, we can see that the red value drops a bunch and the light turns a little bit more blue. And I'm going to try and cover the green LED without blocking the camera. So here I'm going to cover the green, photoreceptor. And there we can see the green value goes down and it gets a little bit more purplish, I would say, as red and blue mix together. And if I let go, it should go back to white. There we go. And then I'll try, it's kind of hard to cover the middle receptor, but I can try. Yeah, so we're getting a more reddish, pinkish, as the blue value drops down to 50. And so there's our mixing lamp. So this project we learned about pulse width modulation, which is how we can get essentially an analog output from a digital pin, which normally would only output high or low. And we can use that pulse width modulation to do something like dimming a lamp or anything that might require some kind of continuous input. And so that's the end of Project 4. See you in the next project.